Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your Minifigure host, Matt. Let's build on it. Welcome in, everybody, to another lovely episode. And as promised from the episode previous, after we did our recap show of Lego Masters Season 2, Episode number 2, today I bring you the interview with Jack and Dawn, with myself and a few others from the community, where we were given an opportunity to ask a few different questions about their time and what they had learned and just all that kind of stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Sit back, relax, and let's take it away. Jack and Dawn, I'm so sad that you guys are here this early into this, but I had a blast watching you guys. The first question I have, so who is more intimidating out of the two judges? Is it Amy or is it Jamie during the building challenges?
I'll say Amy.
I'm going to think the same thing. She kind of towers over you because she is 6 foot something, which starts, it was just one thing. I mean, I was very comfortable with both of them, but I would say Amy was probably marginally a little more intimidating.
I could definitely see that. So I'm there with you on that one. So aside from being sent home, unfortunately, what was the most difficult part of being on the show for you prior to being dismissed?
The most difficult? Dealing with all the COVID protocol.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was probably it. I mean, they took very good care of us and they tested us every other day. And we went through so many different tests before we even got there that it just was on and on. But yeah, it was a lot. And we were quarantined, so we couldn't even go. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't go anywhere. I know last season they got an afternoon they could go to the Lego store or something like that. We weren't allowed off of the hotel grounds unless we were in the van going to the studio. So that was probably the hardest thing.
Very interesting. Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about that for you guys. I was expecting, we get to go do this and have some fun. I guess not. So what words of wisdom do you have for somebody of your age group? You guys they always have a couple, a pairing that is on the older side. And it seems like it's more difficult for you guys to kind of jump in. And I know, Jack, you said, hey, I've been playing with Lego forever, for a long time, on the first episode. So what words of wisdom do you have for somebody else in that bracket trying to jump in and really succeed moving forward in future seasons?
I would say hit the gym, run sprints, get used to running sprints in shoes you're not used to running sprints in, because you aren't necessarily going to wear the most comfortable shoes every episode.
I would say do research because there were some things. Dawn was a little more versed on the motors than I was, and I had no idea about any of the coding or any of that until it was presented to us. So I was kind of out of touch, I guess, a little bit with some of the newer lines of things that they have going. Wasn't real versed on the techniques. But we took some crash courses while they were there. That's the best thing I can say is research, research, and research.
I agree with you. The last question I have, since JC, so we can do another one. Last question. How does it feel to have your newfound fame in your hometowns? Do people come up and say, hey, you're Dawn. Hey, you're Jack. I know who you are. How has that gone for you guys?
Well, at this point, we're still kind of, there's not a whole lot of getting out and about, and I've gone around to places, but it's not anybody that's really jumped out and said, hey, we know who you are. I've had friends just kind of send me things even last night. Says, we got taking pictures of the cheering section, watching TV and everything else. And, but other than that, I can't say that it hasn't affected my life very much. Put it that way. Yeah.
I'm kind of the same way. I live in a real small town. There's a few people that know who I am and recognize who I am, but as a rule, it really hasn't changed anything, really. I have had some people comment again that they hated to see us leave, but that's about it, really.
Well,
No free meals anywhere, no free donuts or coffee or
not
anything
yet.
like that.
Not yet. Well, I appreciate your time, and I'm sorry to see you guys go.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Hi, Don. Hi, Jack. Megan from
Hi.
Brixton again. It's good to see you, although I'm very sad to see you this early.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I have a few questions for you. I don't know of anybody who I've talked to who didn't love your build from episode 1 with the butterfly build. And as is a problem or a challenge with an hour-long TV show, every build gets like a sliver of the time that it deserves. I'm just curious if you can share with us some of the extra things that you packed in there. Obviously, the butterfly was the real eye-catching thing. I wonder if you could describe that build a little bit more for us.
Sure. Well, you can see the bunting, you can see the bunting around the edge of it. We made detail, and we made it very uniform. So it looked like it wasn't haphazard. We wanted it to look like it was a dedicated float for a parade, like they usually are, as opposed to being something just slapped together. On the float, we had a lot of kids that were represented, friends and family of Kelsey, and they're holding balloons and just celebrating. So all the little white and different colored things up on the flexi tubes were actually supposed to be balloons. And we were hoping that with the motion of the balloon of the tram, the little trolley, would joggle them a little bit. So we would have additional motion with that. And then on the backside, which never got saw, we had a tree, and we had a little boy swinging in the tree, and he was scared for his life. He had the face, the face. And so, we had him again looking for some natural motion from the actual movement of the trolley around the float, the float moving around the road.
Yeah, that's great. That's the type of detail we love to hear about, but based on the seconds of airtime that you get, you really don't get to see.
Right.
Was there something similar to that in the build from last night?
Oh, there were details in that build. Do you want to start with that, Jack?
Well, let's see. We started out, we wanted explosives in the safe inside of the jewelry store. And that never was seen. The building next door to the jewelry store on the left side was a pawn shop. So inside, which never got shown, part of the things that were supposed to fly up in the air were tools and musical instruments and things that people would pawn in a pawn shop. There unfortunately also was a toilet that was supposed to go airborne. Unfortunately, it disintegrated before it got airborne when the actual explosion went off. There was rats, there were jewels, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I'll let you go on from there.
Yeah, we had corbels and cornices, the detail work, some dental molding. We really made details because we knew Jamie is really big on architecture. So it's like, okay, we're going to play towards what we know they like. And hopefully, we'll get a big thumbs up for things like that, and you can see some of those. Actually, I just posted a 3-pan picture of some of the things, and I've got, did you see? And I listed quite a few things, in the windows, you can see these different things on my Instagram account. So I'm kind of like trying to like, okay. And I couldn't believe how long the list actually was. On the telephone wires, we have brick built birds. So we've got, if you looked in the window of the pizza shop, we actually have a brick built pizza because David and Richard used all the little 2x2 pizza printed tiles in their build the week before, and they hadn't taken those apart yet. So, so we had to we're thinking on the fly, and we've got a little dining area off to the side of the pizza place, so we had a whole bunch of different things and a strew of gems as Opal, our jewel thief, was walking away. There's a string of jewels following her, as she's dropped along the way. So there's little things that we just we wanted to play up, some of the fun stuff about it.
That does sound a lot of fun. It's like, I noticed all the buildings. I didn't get a chance to see the brick built birds, but when I watch the episode again, I'll definitely be able to look at that stuff. One thing I asked a lot of contestants from last season is that you're building under a lot of stress. There's a lot of things going on. You've got cameras on all the time. There's people all around, but there are times when when the activity has died down a little bit, what's your favorite memory from your Lego Masters experience that happened when the cameras were off or that the cameras didn't catch?
Dawn slapping me in the face because I wasn't sure that we were really on the show.
He
and
gave me permission to
make sure I
slap
was
him.
in reality.
He said, slap me, are we really here? So I was, okay, he said, I slapped him. Yep, we're really here. That and the chance to bond with the other contestants. That was an experience in itself. Just getting to be, elbow to elbow with all these amazing builders and see their skill level and get to know them as people, not just as amazing builders, but as amazing people. And those friendships we are going to carry forever. So
yeah, it certainly seems like it, especially based on season 1. Okay, one last question from me before I pass it on to somebody else. You've talked about Kelsey in both of the episodes, and it's a very touching story that you dedicated your builds to her. Just wanted to give you the opportunity to give you a few minutes to tell us a little bit more about her.
Oh boy. It's very emotional. Kelsey battled with health issues all her life. And what was it, 2 years ago, a tornado took out their house, their home.
Right after a benefit.
Yeah, right after a benefit to help with some finances, and then a tornado takes out their house and destroys her medications and things like that. It was just awesome. They had to find a new place to live, and of course then they had vehicles that were damaged, and they had property that they couldn't salvage. So they had a really rough time. While she is going through all the health issues she's had, a couple years just before that, she was diagnosed she had diabetes. And she has had leukemia, and it just was one thing after another that she was battling. And they were trying so many different things to try and give her a quality of life. And she turned 16. Was it in October? I think in October.
I think so.
Yeah, I think she turned 16. I think it was in October. Yeah. And then we lost her just before Thanksgiving. So she really did not have a chance to have quality of life. But she had a love of life and a love of people. She was just the kindest soul you would ever want to meet.
Oh yeah. Her faith was strong in spite of all the hardships she had went through. Her brother was a bone marrow donor, and he is a very young man, very young. Yeah. And she just struggled and struggled, but she never gave up. And she was just an amazing spirit. And that's why she loved butterflies, and that's why we kind of went with the butterflies. She kind of had a special connection with them. They'd come and land right there at where she was when she wasn't in the hospital. It was a tough ride for her, and she was a trooper.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing those memories, and I'm so glad that the U.S. and other countries will be able to share her memories as well when the episodes air there. I will pass it on to the next person. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you, Megan.
Okay. Hi. Thanks a lot for taking part in this interview with us. So my first question for you guys is, what is your biggest takeaway or lesson learned from season 2 of Lego Masters?
I'm going to say go big, go bold, and don't stop laying the bricks. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, what she said. And try not to second guess yourself either, though. Just keep going at it. The lessons I learned were more about the people than anything else that I learned, and spending the time with my sister that I got to spend, because we don't get to spend that much. That was awesome time. It just, yep. Oh, that was very special to do that, because we are 300 miles apart. So having that time to spend together and be creative, because that's something that involves our family history, and going forward, the people in our family are very creative. So we're very blessed to have had that opportunity.
So if you could go back and change something, maybe in your last challenge, what would it be?
We probably could have used a big rat sitting on top of the jewelry store, signifying that evil rat that's selling the bad jewels. Something a little more bigger than life and larger, bright, something that's going to have bright colors just flying out of it when it explodes. I think that probably we were playing very much to a very detailed city or little town, small town scene, and looking at the other builds, we probably could have gone, like I said, bigger and bolder.
Much bigger, yes.
Yeah.
So how long have you guys been Lego fans, and what are your collections like at home?
Go ahead, Jack. Seniorities first.
Oh, thanks. I've been playing with Lego off and on for about 57 years. Obviously, experience doesn't mean everything. My collection has actually just increased tremendously just since the show. I did not have a lot of Lego because my kids are grown, and I just hadn't had the opportunity to get out and do a lot of builds or anything up until just prior to the show. So I'm slowly increasing my collection. I'm really getting into the architecture though, and the cityscapes and the builds that all connect together. Yeah. Modulars, thank you.
I knew what you were talking about. That's what we did.
I'm
we
not
finished
even
each
on
other's
regular
sentences
camera.
Right. I probably started. I didn't do 57 years ago, but pretty darn close. He's what, 7 years older than I am, so give or take, 7 years, within that, and then I built most of the stuff was with his Lego because that back in the 60s, Lego was not necessarily a girl's toy. It was very gender oriented, as toys were at the time. But I would use it and I'd make homes for the Barbies or whatever else I had, or we'd make ramps for the Hot Wheels. Yeah. So I remember playing Hot Wheels with him. So we did various things like that. And then once my kids got to a certain age, we expanded and we bought Lego for them. And I never got rid of those Lego. Those sets and bricks are now intermixed in with mine because my kids are now all grown. So I kind of had a couple dark ages, I guess you'd say. And probably just within this past year or so, I really got back into doing some building. And so this room is gradually being overtaken by Lego, and surprise, surprise. It's not a big room, and I've got a bunk bed off here on the one side, so it takes up a lot of room too. But I'm getting very more selective as to what I'm buying, so I know because I'm buying for parts. I enjoy the sets, but once the set's put together, I want to know what can I use these parts for something else. I am more of a mock builder than a set builder. And so that's where I'm looking at these specialty parts. I've got all kinds of bricks and pieces orders waiting for me on Lego. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
So my final question then for you is, if you guys had been in the show a little bit longer, what would your ideal challenge have been?
Ideal challenge. I was looking forward to doing the wearable challenge that's coming up soon. We've seen some things in the promos, and I think that's what they were assigning a color to. Because at one point, while we were still there, they drew colors, and this is, well, this color is for such and such a team, and this color is for such and such. And we got a color that would have been perfect tying back to Kelsey and her leukemia. The color, we'd have had orange. The color of the leukemia ribbon, cancer ribbon, is orange. And I was so excited. It's like, oh yes, we get to do. We don't know what we were doing at that point, what that was going for. We never got that far. I wanted to do something with whatever that orange was going to tie into, whatever that assigned color was tying into. I wanted to do that.
I think, anything to do with the motors again, because we did some research while we were there. Thanks to Amazon and some overnight shipping and stuff. And after the first challenge, I got to know the motors a little better and learned, and I was kind of looking forward to playing with them again. So I guess that would be my answer, is anything that was mechanized.
All right, great. Thank you very much. And I will pass it on to the next person.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for being here. Let's start with the minifig. You got the Jewel Thief, very recognizable minifig. How excited were you to have that character?
I was super excited. We were the last ones to draw. So everybody drew out. And so, and that was all random as to who got to draw when, and we knew we were the last ones and we were going to get whatever was left. And I pull it out and it's the Jewel Thief in glitter. And they didn't show it on the episode, but I could hardly contain my excitement. I was actually very excited about it. So it was kind of like, all right, because we figured glitter was going to give the best visual effect on screen. The water and the slime are kind of hard to see what's what, especially since we didn't know how much color was going to be there or how viscous or how liquid it was going to be, So, if I'm water, what are you going to see with a big splash of water, So when we saw glitter, I was super excited. But it wasn't the luck of the draw, it was the luck of what was left.
I was not as excited. I was really unfamiliar with the minifig, so it's like, okay, whatever, that's kind of where I was at. I was glad that she was happy about it, though, and I knew she was happy about the glitter, so that was cool.
I didn't have to have it in my house. I don't have to clean it up. That was exciting.
All right. Now, we don't usually blow up Lego. So how was that? And what was your strategy on the explosion and glitter?
It was hard to blow up. It was hard to think about blowing up your build. That was first very hard. It's like, because you build for it to stand, and to build to fail, that was really hard. You really had to put yourself in a totally different mindset. And I think we had the right idea, but at the very last minute, I pushed something down with a little more clutch power than I probably should have. because it's like it wasn't stuck together. And in my mind, it needs to all be stuck together. It's the typical way you build. And so I'm like, oh, that was the side that didn't fall in. So it's like,
I think also we actually had walls that were designed to fail, but then we decided to add another feature and add corbels onto the top of the building, and that added a little more structural integrity, I guess is the best way to put it, a little bit too much so. So it took a lot more to actually knock the walls down. My concern was and that's part of why I decided to put the telephone poles in there, was the wires were kind of a barrier because I was afraid everything was going to blow forward and knock our figure off of the board. And so the telephone lines were more or less like a net to catch some of that debris. But then when we put those corbels on there, it kind of strengthened it just a little bit too much.
How did they do the explosion part? Were you given like an example of, all right, we got a little bit of rocket, model rocket things or whatever? Like how they do the explosions?
They had, I don't remember what the size is, but they had charges that were the size of a quarter. We weren't allowed to handle them. They had a pyrotechnic professional do this. What was that?
They're called squibs.
Squibs. Okay. So yeah, we had two small ones and a large squib or something, some combination that we could tell where we wanted it placed and kind of what direction we were hoping it to go, because we could give them a little bit of direction. But never having blown up Lego before, we weren't sure how it was going to react. And it just was one of those things that it's like mostly worked, but not quite enough.
Sure.
And unless I get a great YouTube spotlight, I'm not planning on blowing up anymore.
Right.
One more question. What was your impression of the parts wall, and did you discover any new favorite elements?
Ooh.
Walking into there and seeing that wall of parts. I mean, you've seen it on TV from the first season, and it's like, these really exist, and I wanted to just walk right past Will and everybody and just run my fingers through some of those bins right away. It was just so cool because I search for things because my sorting method is rather haphazard at this point, but I just kind of wanted to, it's like running your feet through new carpet or whatever. I just wanted to get my hands in there. And I don't know if there was really a favorite new part, although we did use the 1x2 plate with the handle, with the open ends with the handle. And that's what we used for our dental molding. And that was just kind of on the fly. I'm like, oh, put these next to each other. Look what it does. And so I actually have used that since then on some other small architectural things I've built. So I think that might be one of my new favorites.
I think my new favorite is the 2x4 tile. I like them. And if you look real close at that last build we did, I used a lot of them.
And that sidewalk was covered.
But yeah, it was amazing just to run to the brick pit and go. But I other than that, I didn't really find any new favorite one other than that. It's just kind of versatile and it worked out real well for what we needed it for.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Jack and Dawn. So nice to be speaking to you. Just again, not this early is what we would have preferred. But, one of the things you said, Dawn, in the episode last night was that this was a fairy tale, for sure. This was a fairy tale ride for sure, is what you said. What did all this mean to you? Just this experience to get chosen to be on a TV show and what it turned out to be.
It was one of those things where the way when we applied and went through every step of the process, we kept thinking, oh, we probably aren't going to get any farther than that. We're done. It's no big deal. It was for fun, and it just kept progressing and progressing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we got notified we're actually going to be on the set. We're going to the studio to do this, and it was like I said, Jack said, he says, slap me to see if we're really here, and it was one of those things. It's like, it's an experience that we were blessed to have been able to experience together, and something I wouldn't trade for the world, except for maybe a little bit of last night's episode. But other than that, it was awesome. And the fact that we now have these 22 additional new friends that we are constantly in contact with. I mean, it's just hundreds and hundreds of messages every day between us, and it's just crazy how we haven't stopped, and we are already talking about meeting here, or who's going to Brick Rodeo, and who's doing this and who's doing that. It's so there's so much camaraderie and honest love between these individuals that it just warms my heart.
Yeah, it was very surreal. And at some points, it still is today. I have to kind of step on what Dawn said. These are not my friends. These are part of my extended family. I mean, I truly do love these people. They're amazing. I never would have dreamed to be able to be in a competition like this and still have the caring and the compassion and the love that you have between these people. I've never been in a competition. Everything I've ever been in competition wise was pretty much cutthroat, and it wasn't like this. If you had a shortcoming, people were trying to help you up your game and strengthen your weakness. And that's amazing. That's unheard of in this day and age.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I'm curious about is, was there something that, like some special thing that you are very good at building that we didn't get to see you build on the show? Like you were waiting for a challenge where you could show us X or Y. Was there something that you were sort of saving that you were hoping to pull out in a future episode?
I enjoy doing a lot of landscaping in my builds, and we did a little bit with a butterfly, but we weren't really able to touch on it as much yet. And I really had hoped to do something there, although I dabble in so many different techniques, and I'm constantly learning, and I see somebody does this, and Tips and Bricks does that, shows this, and I'm just like, save this, look at this, Pinterest this. So it's just crazy. So I'm always trying to learn new techniques, and I don't really know if I have a niche yet, even yet, but there's so much that I just love to do.
I'm still looking for mine as well. I don't really have any specialty technique per se. I like doing figures as well as architecture though. So different characters. I've done a couple. I did a biker, obviously for obvious reasons, and then I also did a pianist for the piano build that Lego just sent me, and they're a little different, but they work, and so I'm still learning. I mean, I learned so much from different techniques that people use in the competition that I'm still trying to process it all mentally and apply it.
Yes, definitely. I think we all are continuing to hone our craft there. Was there someone or was it something of you that you maybe did, or something else that someone else did that you really felt like we should have seen from the first two episodes that didn't make the final cut, like some funny moment or some interesting anecdote that just, the folks at home always want to know some of the behind the scenes fun.
We had a lot of bantering between both of us and then between a couple of the other teams too. Tim and Zach come to mind immediately because they were next to us, and other than Dawn, Tim was the next oldest person, which he's like 19 years younger than I am. But there was still a bantering between us and old man jokes and things like that.
Yeah, there were a couple times where Jack's off doing something and I says, "Get back here, old man," or I'd yell at him something, "Old man this," or "Old man that." I'm like, I can still do that because he is older than me. And yeah, the banter, the very friendly, in good fun bantering that went between the teams, whether it was between us and another team or even other two other sets of teams. It was just, we just had so much fun together that I hope that in future episodes they will show some more of that. They won't have to showcase as many builders as they go forward, so they can develop, delve a little bit into the actual people and their builds, and how we each get along with each other, because it's just remarkable.
The interactions we had in the green room too, while we were off set, actually waiting to go onto the set. There was a lot of that, and it was amazing. I can't even describe it. I really can't. Just the camaraderie that we had in general.
They were short one meal at one time, and Jack hadn't gotten his yet. So Caleb gives Jack his meal, and he says, "I can wait." So it's just simple things like that. But it's just that shows the caring of everybody, trying to watch out for everybody, and just the humanistic side of the builders.
Wow, sounds like a really special group, as we are starting to see on the show. My last question really is just around, what's next for you both in your Lego adventure? Obviously I keep up with both of you on social media, so I get a taste of it. But I'd love to get a sense from you, like, what are your goals, or what are things that you're looking forward to now that the show's, kind of behind you? What's ahead of you?
Building up my inventory, because I don't have a lot of bricks. So I'm trying to increase that. I want to be able to do these mega builds that I see other people do, but with my limited supply, it's hard to even attempt to do it right now. And I'm in the middle of a project right now, and it's like, man, I'm going to have to make a trip to the Lego store or order online or something, because I just don't have enough to do it.
Yeah, I am not done building or learning, and I'm actually going to participate in my first con not this coming weekend, but next weekend. So it's virtual Bricks by the Bay, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. And I'm also I am going to Brick Rodeo. I've booked my hotel and my flight. So I know there's several other Lego Masters from this season that are going to Brick Rodeo as well. So this will be a good chance for us to see some of them. And so I'm dipping my foot into the con pool. We'll see what else comes about. But I try to do I'm probably going to cut back a little bit on some of the Instagram challenges, just because I did so many, and I'm still doing the daily brick limit challenge. I have done one since January 1st, and if I would like to get through the year, but I can't guarantee anything. That's a lot of builds. But I just keep building, and I'm planning a trip with a couple of the other people from Michigan to the Troy store probably next week. So we're going to kind of do a group trip and hang out for a little bit. But just Lego, and my husband is supporting, very supportive. So that's a blessing.
That's amazing. Well, it was so great to talk to you both again. Thanks so much for your time.
Well, that'll wrap it up for this episode, and it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of enjoyment talking with Jack and Dawn, asking them questions, being kind of open and silly at the same time. Just a lot of fun. And I appreciate everybody else that was on the call as well with them, that asked a bunch of different questions. So you kind of get a different feel for them as a whole compared to what they were on the show. So until the next episode, we've got something special coming tomorrow that you are not going to want to miss. So until then, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.